Burnt Island was once poetically described as having its head to the hills and its feet to the sea. This is a fair description, with the Firth of Forth lapping its shores to the south and the Bin Hill rising majestically above it to the north. Over the centuries, Burnt Island's relationship with the sea has been both turbulent and peaceful. It has always been a vital township, situated directly across the Forth from Edinburgh. Its special location could help it ward off enemies, but also to prosper as a port. Shipping has provided trade and culture from foreign parts, as well as bringing war to its shores. Right up to the present day, Burnt Island has experienced many dramatic changes. Every day brings a new dimension to the Port of Grace. One of the earliest settlements in the area is Dunerne Fort, built in the Iron Age, about 2 miles northwest of Burnt Island, some 700 feet above sea level. The circular fort commanded a wide view of the Firth of Forth, and was the probable stronghold of local leaders up to the Middle Ages. Until then, the local population was Gaelic-speaking. The castle, now known as Ross End Castle, dates back to the 14th century. In former times it was also known as Burnt Island Castle, or Abbot's Hall, since it belonged originally to the abbots of Dunfermline. The castle and grounds have magnificent views of Edinburgh and the Fife shores. The site and construction at Ross End were chosen in order to take greatest advantage of the sunlight. Throughout the centuries, the castle has been home to many, including the Melvilles, an important local family. Scotland's monarchs also used it as a safe and convenient place to stay. It was here, while Mary Queen of Scots stayed for a few nights, that the French poet Pierre de Chastelard crept into her bedroom and hid beneath her bed.
I will not condemn him to death. Send him away, banish him from court. But execution?
Madam, firm action must be taken. The Lords demand it. This is the second time the man has shown his treasonous disrespect for the Scottish crown. Here is the warrant for his execution. You must sign it.
Chastelard is a poor romantic fool. Should he die for love of his queen? No, James. Is it not more fitting that we should show grace and forgive?
Once, perhaps. When he crept into your chamber at Holyrood, I would agree with you. A second time cannot be tolerated, madam. You have your own reputation to consider, as well as that of the crown.
You Scots, you know nothing about poetry or courtly love. A foolish act, perhaps. Criminal? Treasonous? No, never.
My sister, you must understand that already the people are speculating that he may have been invited into your chamber. There can be only one conclusion, madam. He must die, and you must be seen to condemn him.
They say this? They think that I... Very well, James, give it to me.
Despite its importance and place in history, the castle was allowed to deteriorate. It took last-minute action by the Historic Buildings Council to avert the total destruction and demolition of the castle in 1970. Ross End was refurbished and reopened in 1977, and is now the home of an architect's practice. In 2001, Ross End Castle served as the starting point for locals to celebrate a historic decision made by James VI of Scotland. In 1601, he had authorized the translation of the Bible into English, when he attended a General Assembly held at Burntisland Parish Church. In commemoration of this, a pageant was led off by the king through the town en route to the parish church, where the reenactment was enjoyed by a capacity house.
The answer lies in the good book itself. The Bible as it stands now fails to speak the true word of God. The reason that Scotland is in the state it is in is because the Bible fails to convey its true message. The people are being misled. This is not the fault of the good book, but rather with our translation of it. What we need is a new translation of the Bible. Not just a half-hearted attempt, full of fourboils and inaccuracies, but one which speaks the absolute truth. This translation will be at the forefront of the English-speaking world. For let me assure you, gentlemen,
It is perhaps a fitting gesture that the celebrations were held within the walls of the church that was paid for by the townspeople of Burntisland so many years before. Well preserved and skillfully renovated, it still retains many features of historical interest and value, not to be found in other Scottish churches. It is the oldest post-Reformation church still in regular use. The church is built as a square, with the worshippers sitting as a family around the table and the Bible. Very little fixed seating existed. Until the 18th century, the centre of the church was reserved for the women folk. Unlike the craftsmen, they had to bring their own stools. The magistrate's pew, completed in 1606, bears the old borough coat of arms on the top of the canopy. The influence and connection with the sea is present everywhere. In 1541, King James V granted Burntisland its charter as a royal borough, with the main intention of developing the harbour facilities as a naval port. This proved to be a boon to Burntisland, and the trade encouraged the development of the town. These panels bear witness to the many trades associated with its maritime history. The outside staircase, completed in 1679, proved a controversial addition to the church. The purpose of the staircase was to allow sailors to get to and from the east and south galleries. The call of the sea and changing tides often meant that sailors would be forced to exit the church in the middle of a lengthy sermon to catch their ship. The church cemetery gives a tantalizing glimpse of other mysteries which lie beneath the sea. Here lies the grave of Andrew Watson, the owner of the ill-fated baggage ferry, the Blessing. In 1633, King Charles I hired the Blessing of Burntisland and another ferry to transfer goods from the port across the Forth to the harbour of Leith. A sudden squall blew up, and the king was transferred safely to his own ship anchored in Burntisland Roads. Charles could only look on as the heavily laden ferry carrying coronation gifts, silver plate and servants all sank in the raging sea. Only 2 bodies were ever recovered from the wreck, both washing ashore some 3 weeks after the tragedy.
If it was covered fairly quickly with sand, and that would, to all appearances, be the case, or I say sand mud, then even leather and possibly textiles could be well preserved, and as everything probably was boxed and cased in oak cases, one feels that that if we do find this thing, and I have every confidence that we very much will, that we might be looking at a time capsule of the period, and what is more incredible, a royal time capsule of the period. Now that, I think, would be of immense historical importance.
The search for the lost treasure continues today, with the latest in marine technology employed to analyze the seabed and what lies below it. There have been many attempts and much money invested in the quest to unlock the whereabouts and wealth of the Blessing. The search continues, but has now been taken up by a non-profit-making group from the Burntisland Heritage Trust.
That mag hit was on that, which is...
The stormy waters off Burnt Island have claimed many vessels over the years, and none more spectacular than the former Cunard liner which had been converted into the aircraft carrier HMS Campania. The Campania sank in November 1918 after coming adrift and colliding with other vessels. Miraculously, every one of her crew was saved. The geographical location of Burnt Island as gateway to the north, together with its important deep-sea port, mean the town has always been a strategic military target. No more so than in 1651, when the forts at East and West Broomhill opened fire on Cromwell's Roundheads. There survives a local anecdote that the first shot entered a china shop owned by the provost, prompting the surrendering of the borough.
Again the victory is ours, good soldiers of the Commonwealth. This battle has been less bloody, but the victory no less glorious. This port of Burnt Island is so well fortified that I had to send 2,000 of my men against it. The harbour defences are excellent, and the guns well placed on the hilltop to repel any attack from the land. But the Lord was with us, and with the good burghers of Burnt Island. They have no wish to see their town and harbour destroyed, nor are they so vehement in their opposition to our cause. They have saw fit to surrender, rather than lose lives and property. The Scots garrison shall therefore be dispersed, unharmed. Our army will withdraw back to our main camp at Leith. A garrison shall remain here to maintain our control over the River Forth and provide security in the south, as the army of the Commonwealth advances to take Falkland and Dundee. The citizens of Burnt Island shall see to your board and keep, and otherwise they shall be left in peace to go about their business.
The town did its best to return to normal while under the occupation of Oliver Cromwell's army. During this time, cavalry soldiers held horse racing competitions along the sands and links for recreation and amusement. And so, the early Burnt Island Games were born. The actual horse race remained a part of the games until the early 1800s. Today, the games are a mixture of traditional athletic events, Highland dancing and cycle racing. They are complemented by the numerous shows, thrilling rides, food stalls and games of chance which form part of the modern fair. In its day, Burnt Island has also seen the birth of many innovations allied to the sea. On the 1st of March 1850, the world's first roll-on, roll-off rail ferry sailed from the port. The famous Victorian engineer Thomas Bouch designed the ferry. It ran for 40 years between Burnt Island and Granton, until its demise due to the opening of the Forth Rail Bridge in 1890. Indeed, the railway played a vital role in the making of Victorian Burnt Island. During this time, Burnt Island became one of the leading ports in Scotland for exporting coal. To this day, most of its shoreline is defined by the railway developments of that time. Up to the coming of steam ferries, crossing the Forth had always been potentially hazardous. No more so than one fateful night over 700 years ago, when one of Scotland's greatest kings, Alexander III, made his final, fatal journey. His tragic death on a precipitous track on the outskirts of Burnt Island was greatly significant. It plunged Scotland into the turmoil of the Wars of Independence.
It was just along the road from here. That's what had happened. One dark, windy March night in 1286, our King Alexander was travelling from Edinburgh to Kinghorn. In the murk, his horse tripped, threw him and he died. And with it, died our peace and prosperity. He was near to the throne, you see. And so the nobles of Scotland, they decided to ask Edward Longshanks for his help. And Edward took the chance to ensure that no matter what happened, he would have total control. Soon we were all run with English administration, and so we had to fight. First, we were led by Wallace until he was betrayed and executed. And then the Bruce took up the cause and led us to victory at Bannockburn. Name of sheriffs and garrisons. 30 years of war and chaos. All because the king had to get home to his new wife. But it didn't need to happen. If he'd have listened to his counsellors and stayed in Edinburgh, well, even the boatman didn't want to cross the river. Or at least spent the night in his castle at Burntisland. My story would be oh so different. It would be one of a plain hammerman, plying his trade, bringing up his family in peace, and enjoying the prosperity of our wee Herbertoon.
But the story of the hammerman was not lost forever. The early 1900s saw the rise of shipbuilding in Burntisland. The Burntisland Shipbuilding Company launched the SS Sunbank in 1919 and later produced the aircraft carrier Empire McKendrick during the Second World War. In 1 year alone, 13 ships were launched from the slips. Jimmy Wilson fondly remembers the days when the town was bustling with workers heading for the docks.
Well, there was always shipbuilding in Burntisland. Firstly, there was shipbuilding in Kinghorn. That's where shipbuilding really started, in Kinghorn. Then, in 1918, when the Eyre brothers came here, that's when it started in Burntisland. Oh, the atmosphere at a launch was terrific. It was half the town was down there to watch it being launched, and everybody, you know, men all stopped work. Everybody stopped, and the launch took place, and that was it then.
Related seafaring businesses remain to this day. Other maritime businesses are flourishing and remain as dynamic as the sea itself. There are many connections with the sea and the people of Burntisland. Helen Mayburn describes the relationship and importance of one famous resident, Mary Somerville, daughter of Vice Admiral Sir William Fairfax.
She's important because she was recognised throughout the world, but the plaque above the house where she lived is really a modest reference to a truly great woman. She was born in 1780 at a time when education for women was not encouraged. Despite that, she went on to be at the forefront of pushing knowledge in mathematics, astronomy and philosophy. Her studies continued through 2 marriages and 6 children. Her books were published over 4 decades, the last one being published when she was 89. And these books were used within schools and universities for years as textbooks. She was given many honours in her lifetime, including being made a member of the Royal Astronomical Society. And Somerville College, for instance, is named after her. A really remarkable woman. But there's a secret hidden in her former home. In the 1960s, the house was being renovated. And the ceiling, which was originally in Mary's bedroom, was removed. And there, revealed, was another ceiling, magnificently painted in the constellations of planets and stars. And it's quite an ironic thought to imagine Mary spending hours looking and studying the stars from her bedroom window, quite unaware of what was painted above her.
Today, Burntisland has much to offer its local residents and tourists. Attractions like the Beacon Leisure Centre, where one can sit and overlook activities in the pool while viewing the promenade, Burntisland Bay and the town beyond. Golfers can enjoy all the amenities offered at Burntisland Golf Club while playing a course that provides a true test of golf. The splendid views of the town and the Forth obtained throughout the course are an unexpected bonus for the visitor. Burntisland's harbour to this day boasts a safe haven for sailors and marine enthusiasts. The waters of the Forth continue to be a source for both work and pleasure. the heritage and traditions of the town flourish today, and Burntisland retains a relationship with the sea that continues to be a blessing that is both constant and ever-changing.